to play it loud. Now you're playing with power. Super power.
Today's episode of Glen's Retro Show is brought to you by DNA Dimension Designs, the best custom retro gaming decals in the game. Period. Hi everybody, thank you for joining me on today's edition of Glen's Retro Show. I was contacted about a week ago by Retroflag. Now Retroflag makes some really cool Raspberry Pi cases. As a matter of fact, about a year ago, I picked up their first product that I have. It's an NES Classic for Raspberry Pi 3. And I paid about 20 bucks for it at the time. The attention to detail, not only on the unit, but on the case itself, the shipping box. It's just amazing the work they did, especially for the price point. Now, I have a review down below about this little guy here, and the only issue I had with it, which was a lot of people had an issue with, the power and reset button did a hard shutdown on it. Meaning, if you hit the reset button on here, it just momentarily cut the power to the Pi, which you could potentially crash your SD card. Now, I have a link down below as well to my, I'll call it ingenious little fix, to that reset button, so when you hit it, it does a safe shutdown command. It doesn't crash your unit. Now, since my video on doing that, they went back to the drawing board and fixed this, so they actually now have a safe shutdown with the power and the reset button. So they listened to us and they made an improvement. So that alone speaks wonders of how they feel about the retro community. Not only with the great design of this little guy, but that they listened and made a change to improve it. But when they sent me an email about a week ago, they said they had a new product and they wanted me to take a look at it to review for you guys. And I'm pretty excited about it. I mean, it's an NES, it's actually a Super NES case, and it's their deluxe edition. So not only does this have an SNES classic case in here, they also have a SNES joystick in here as well. And they already made sure this has a safe shutdown command for power and reset. And once again, the box looks amazing, so let's get a little more information on this, take a look, and see how it pans out. I'm really excited, and I really want to say thank you to Retroflag for contacting me to take a look at this little guy. Let's have a look. Okay, so here once again is their original NES Classic case in its box. So I'm going to put that aside here. I have the review link down below for that one. So here is their SNES SuperPi case, they call it, and it's compatible with the Raspberry Pi 3B, 3B Plus, and the 2B, which is pretty cool. Now in this box, you see it's including the case and a classic USB controller, one of them. But it's really, really just a nice box. I mean, it's just regular cardboard stock, but it gets you excited to see what's going to be inside. So let's open this little guy up here and see what we have. Okay, the first thing we see for the deluxe edition is a nice SNES controller. It's got a pretty good weight to it, and the cord seems pretty good. Buttons feel pretty nice, so we'll take a look and see how this plays out. What else do we have in here? We have a little manual. Now, in the other case too, they give very simple instructions, but to be honest, it's really not difficult to put this thing together, so the instructions here should be fine. And just like in their last case, they included a little screwdriver, and that's nice. You don't have to go hunting for anything. Oh, let's see if we can get this out here. Doesn't want to come out. There we go. Excellent. That looks pretty cool. Now, I know a lot of people have the Famicom version, the Japanese or European version. And this one was only made here for the North American market. I know people like the other one, and I have a couple of them, but I actually really like the style of the US version. It's kind of tank-like. I always like that about it. Now, the reset button moves in the same way as the original one did. It's got a good spring back motion on it. That's the reset. And a nice clicking action for that power switch. Now, this is something that I saw already and looked pretty neat. Now, in the old case, there was an expansion port cover you could put little SD cards in. Now, in this one, the SNES here in the States, when you had your cartridge in, you'd press this in to eject the game. When you do it now, you can put your SD cards in there. It's a little spot. That's kind of neat that works. Again, Retroflag was very good at attention to detail. We have our micro SD card slot over here, our power, HDMI, and external audio over there. There's an expansion cover over here. Now, in the Classic Edition, some people didn't like that you opened up the cartridge cover to get to the Ethernet and the USB ports. I kind of like that idea. But in any case, they put that here on the side. So there's a little port cover here you have to pull off. I'm not sure really how that comes off just yet. We'll miss that a little bit later. I'm not quite sure. I know it pops off, and we'll get to that in a minute. But you pop this little guy off. Oh, there it is. Yeah. We'll get that off later. And we can get to our USB ports. I wonder if I can lift it up a little bit here. Yeah, there we go. I'm going to cheat. So there it is. So you can see the Ethernet and the USB ports in there. So it's not as easy to get in there as flipping up the Classic Edition version. It looks like it has little hooks in there, and it was probably just in a spot I couldn't grab it at. Is it? There we go. Boom. It goes back in there. So I think I just pull it off here. My nail's just too short and I can't get it. But they have a little power indicator on there and 2 USB ports in there. And the Retroflag logo up top. So when you compare this to a regular SNES, I mean, this thing looks pretty good. Now, I'm going to bring something up here for a quick second from another company because I want to show you how really nice this one looks. I purchased another one. It was called the Rasptendo. And I purchased this a while ago, and to be honest, I didn't even take it out of the box. Let me see if I can open it up here. I wasn't too pleased with how it looks, and let's compare the two. Because I really think that this one here is much nicer from Retroflag. So we can see the Nintendo doesn't quite match up with how the style looked. It's a little bit different. I mean, the layout's pretty much the same. We have the SD card on the side. We have the ports on the back. But even looking at the front, this one looks a lot more like an SNES than that one, just holding it side by side. And also looking at the top, it just never got to me. This really looked that good. And there is no functioning opening door here like we have with the eject button on here. There is no functioning eject button here at all. The reset button also on the this one here from Retroflag, you see it slides the way it's supposed to. These are just quick tactile buttons. And I think this was also like $20 or $24, but it's been sitting here because I really didn't care for it that much. So if you see these two on the market, one from Rasptendo, or Rasptendo I should say, or the one from Retroflag, there's no question, just on looks alone and the way the buttons work and the eject button, this is a clear, better unit. Again, I've never really tried this one because it never really excited me to do so and try it out. This one does. It just looks so much better. See for yourself. I'm going to press this one more time before I open this thing up. I think that's just neat. I like that. That's awesome. Okay, we're going to pull the top off here, put it to the side. And we can see inside here we have our screws and rubber feet to hold in the Raspberry Pi and everything else. And if we just tilt this up just a little bit, we can see our GPIO connector right here. Our little spot here for plug in the power. Our 2 USBs in the front right here for your 2 joystick controllers. An LED light and our 2 buttons here, and our daughter board, which will now give us a safe shutdown versus just crashing it when you hit the reset button. There's also a spot down here for a fan, which, you know, if you're putting a Raspberry Pi 3 in here, you probably want to get a little fan to put in there. They don't include it, but I've gotten a couple of them. They're only a couple bucks. It's not too bad. And this over here will be your Ethernet ports over here on the side. So very nice, very clean design. Let's stick our little Pi in here and see how this thing works out. Okay, so I have a standard Raspberry Pi 3B here. I don't have any heat sinks on it or fan just yet. It's not a big deal. I'll put it on later. I literally just took this out of the box. I had it sitting in a box for a while, so I just took it out. And putting it in place really should not be too difficult. It looks like we're going to be just basically putting our 2 USB controllers in right here. Let's see if I can tilt this down a little bit for you guys to see a little bit better. Pull these 2 guys out of the way. We're going to pop them into our first 2 USB ports right here. Very easy to do. We're going to slide this down into its position here. Line up the holes. And that's really it. You're like 99% done. Now, the next thing we need to do is we have to make sure this goes in the right way. So, okay, so once we get this in place, you'll notice on the wires, there are 2 empties here on one side. You want to make sure that is facing inward. So this red is going to be pretty much on the first pin right here. So we're going to hold this in place and push this down like so. And make sure it goes down all the way. And that's pretty much it. We'll bend this down like so. And that's it. So just make sure the 2 open ones are facing in towards your Pi. Now if that's done, we want to screw this in place to make sure it doesn't move. So we're going to take our little bag of screws right here. They will include 3 black screws and 4 silver. The black screws are going to be used to hold in your Pi. So we're going to take that and our nice little screwdriver that they included, like so, and just screw it in place. Okay, so we can see we have our Ethernet port accessible, 2 USB ports accessible, 2 that are hidden. That's fine because they are now moved up here. And then on this side, we have a micro SD card slot available. We have our power, HDMI, and if you need an external audio jack. I mean, that's really it. The only other things you can really do, again, is you put on heat sinks and a fan in here to cool it down. But other than that, this thing's ready to go. So we can now close this little guy up, push this thing down out of the way, put our lid back on. Make sure we push this wire down so it stays out of the way. Make sure our switches still work. They do. Okay, so I had a few more minutes, so I thought I would put on the heat sinks and put the fan in. So you can see right here, these heat sinks are very inexpensive. I got a whole bag of them for like $1. So I stuck one heat sink on the chip on the bottom of the Raspberry Pi. And when I flipped it over, you can see I added a heat sink here and heat sink here. So 3 heat sinks is not too difficult to put on. It's self-adhesive thermal tape. So you just put them on, put my Raspberry Pi back in, and you can see right here there's actually a spot for it, a fan to power it. So I added one of those as well. You can see right here, here's the main on-off switch, the reset switch, and here is the safe shutdown switch. When this is set to off, the shutdown and reset switches don't function with the startup script or shutdown script at all. So I'm not quite sure why they put that here. I guess maybe someone does want a way just to kill power. You wouldn't put that on. But you do need to set that to the on position if you do want to use the safe shutdown script and the safe reset script. So make sure you put that to the on position. And you see here's a spot here for a fan. There are spots to screw it in. There are clips here as well that'll hold them in, usually pretty well. So you may not have to use the screws at all. I didn't use them. So here's a little fan I had. Got like 3 or 4 of them for like $1 off of Amazon. So wasn't that big a deal. And we're just going to take that off. And you can see here, just make sure you have your red, which is your positive, and your black is your negative. So your positive is this first rail, and your negative is the opposite rail.
Again, it's a fan. It's not going to really cause any major catastrophe if you put it in wrong, but you should put it in the way that it was designed. And you can see here real quick, again, the main harness going in here. You have the one empty hole followed by the red, and the two empty holes are on the other side. Just make sure you put that in properly, because this over here is your power, and you don't want to put it backwards and maybe damage the board. I don't think you would, but just pay attention and care when you put that in. So you can see right here, I'll try and zoom in here a little bit if I can. You can see fan positive is your red, and fan negative is here, and it will shut your fan off and on when you use the switches, so it's kind of nice. The whole board here is done really, really well. I remember in the original NES, the cables were just long enough to go in, and that's also the case here, but it just seemed to be easier putting this one in for whatever reason. Maybe the cable lengths, I don't know, it just seemed to go together better in this case, and I really do, if I haven't said so already, I really like this case design. It's very, very nice. And just another angle showing the cables going in, and that was to seat the fan in. You can see the fan is in there like so. The clips on the side hold it in well enough. You can, if you have screws, you could put them in to screw it into place, or put a little hot glue around it to hold it in place. That all should be just fine, but the clips hold it in just well enough. And just another shot from the side, you can see the clips holding in the fan, and everything here is very neat. There's still extra room in here. Nothing is like really compact and tight. You can get the top on, no problem. You just have to bend this down a little bit. This is probably the only thing that'll give you a little force when you try to close it and maybe try to press it off. Just bend that down a little bit, and the case will go in just fine. And you can see here are the instructions. Again, there's not too much really here. You see two USB cables that go into the very first one here. These secondary ones and Ethernet will come out your external port here for you to access them later. And you can see here is your cables going to your GPIO pins. I'll zoom in a little bit. Once again, you see the two empties here go on the left side. The one stays on the right, and it starts in the very beginning of the GPIO pins here on your Raspberry Pi. And that's really it. Then it's just really showing you how to screw everything back in, and it does show you the safe shutdown switch. It's defaulted to off. You do want to set that to the on position if you do want to use the switches to safely shut down or safely restart your Raspberry Pi. Now here's a picture of the back. It really just shows you again how to put the screws in, which is really not too hard. But it looks like when you turn on your system, by holding down certain functions of this joystick, you'll get different functionality out of it. I haven't touched any of this yet, but it looks like there are some turbo function abilities of the controller. And again, I like the case, and I do like this controller here. It felt really good in the hands. It felt like it was not cheaply made. They spent some time with this, and that's what I really like about this company as a whole. They really put a lot of thought into the product. They don't just slap something together and push it out. You can tell there was time and engineering put into this to make it as really neat as that it is, and I really recommend this product. I think Retroflag did a really nice job once again with this case.
So let's go turn this upside down and put in the 4 screws. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is, once everything's all assembled, is put an SD card in here. So let's eject this, pull out a little SD card. I'll close that back up. I love that. That is a great feature. Our SD card's gonna go right in here on the side. And just like the NES Classic that they made, it's very easy to still grab and pull out the SD card that's there, like so. My nails were cut, so it's a little harder for me, but it's still very easy to get to the SD card sitting in right there. You can see down here is our spot for our fan that we did put in. And we'll just connect our HDMI and power right here. So I'm going to put this on the back, like so. Okay, so we're all connected with those, like so. And since we got a really nice USB controller, and it does feel really nice. I haven't even taken the plastic off of here. I guess I should do that, huh? There we go. Everything feels really good, and it's got a good weight to it. So we're going to plug this into one of the ports. We'll plug it in right here. Let's see, it goes in like this. And next thing to do really is to turn it on. So let's see what happens here. We have a little red light See if I can turn that here so you guys can see it, I hope. Little red indicator light there. And my monitor did turn on, so that's a good sign. My buddy 8-Bit Flashback, this is his particular Raspberry Pi build. I like using this one. It's a good build he created. Okay, so in order for the safe shutdown script to work from Retroflag, they actually have a little switch right here inside. And I'm not quite sure why they did this. It's defaulting to off. So even if you install the safe shutdown script, it's not going to work. You need to switch this over to the on position, and now their safe shutdown script will work. I'm going to email them and see why that switch is even there and not just have it defaulting to on to begin with. But in any case, make sure you switch this over to the on position if you want to use the safe reset and shutdown commands from Retroflag. So we need to close this thing back up and install the script. Okay, so once you have your Retroflag Pi case on your network, you can connect to it via SSH, and we're going to put in a small command here, which I'll put a link down below. They have to program onto here so the safe shutdown and power switch is going to work. Okay, so we have our SuperPi case here from Retroflag, and I've installed a brand new SD card running RetroPi version 4.4, and we've installed the safe shutdown script. So let's give it a try. We got a little power indicator light down here, and my little fan spinning in there. My monitor light has come on. Okay, we can see we're in the RetroPi screen right now. So we have two options. We have our power button and our reset. Pressing reset should do just that. By pressing it, it should power down and come right back up. Now in the original case, in other cases, when you hit that reset button, it would just cut the power, potentially crashing your machine. But let's give it a try. Looks like we are kicked out to the command prompt, and there it goes. Power light flickered for one quick second. Looks like it just did the reset. And here it comes right back up. Excellent. So the reset button worked just as advertised. Let's try the power button. So it's in the up position, on position basically right now. So I'm going to go to the down, off position. Kick this out to the command prompt. And there it goes. It's shutting it down. The power light has gone off. The fan has gone off. And it is shut off. So excellent. Retroflag has a nice little script. And you can safely either restart or power on and off your unit. Excellent. Okay, now I've got a couple programs installed in here, so let's turn this thing back on. Our fan turns on, our little indicator light once again. Now this particular build was actually built by my friend 8-Bit Flashback. And it's a really good build with a lot of good programs in here. So now we'll take a look at the controller itself. Again, it does look like an SNES controller. We got our left and right shoulder buttons on here. We have our directional pad, select, start, X, Y, B, and A. And it feels solid, doesn't feel cheap. It feels like, you know, pretty close to an original controller from what I can remember. It's got a pretty good length of cord. And it does end in a standard USB, so technically you can use this in anything. And I do hope Retroflag does sell these independently of the units, because I would like to get a second one for, you know, to have my friend being able to play. So in my 8-bit flashback build here, let's go to Super Nintendo and let's pick a couple of games to try out the controller. One of my favorite games, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 4, Turtles in Time. A great game by Konami. Let's start her up. Well, let's see how well this controller does.
Big Apple, 3 a.m.
Well, I could definitely say pressing the directional pad, it doesn't require any excessive force. It works very well, very easy. Directionals work, and all the buttons seem to respond very well as well. It actually feels to me just as good as an original SNES controller. I like the feel of the controller, I really do. I think Retroflag's done a really good job here with this entire configuration. Let's take a look at some other games. The directionals work very, very well, very smooth. I think they really did a nice job. This controller is working very well. I really, really like it. Now, just because I stink at the game doesn't mean the controller's not good. The controller's doing everything I'm asking it to do, just I'm not very good at Street Fighter. Now, if it was Tekken, that'd be a different story. So the test of a good joystick is always going to be a maze game like Pac-Man or Miss Pac-Man. And I've used enough controllers to know when I have a bad one versus a good one. And right now the control here of Miss Pac-Man is doing exactly what I want it to do. Although the red ghost is a little bit quicker here in the SNES version. The directions are going exactly where I want them to go when I want them to go. So Retroflag, excellent job. So what's my final verdict on the Retroflag SNES Raspberry Pi case? I think they did a fantastic job. First of all, the box art is great. This deluxe edition that comes with an SNES pad is very responsive, feels good in the hands, has a good weight. I hope they sell these separately so you can buy a secondary one. This is really, really good. The case itself, I think, is fantastic because also they listen to us. They redesigned their board in here so we have a proper shutdown, a proper soft reset. They did a really nice job on the case, and just like their NES case, has a spot to store your little micro SD cards. So you have different builds in here. That functioning eject button is great. The touch and feel of the on-off and the reset is great. It feels really good in the hands. It looks fantastic. Guys, I'm telling you, if you have a Raspberry Pi looking for a case and you don't want the NES edition that they make, which again, I like that one too, this thing's fantastic. I thank Retroflag for sending me this review copy, but again, the opinion here is my own. I'm telling you from my heart, this thing is really, really nice. Did a great job with it. I love it. Everyone, thanks for watching. Have a great day. If you liked the video, please like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends. And if you do see the Retroflag second version of the SNES case with the proper safe shutdown and power switch, or this new SNES or the European version, they're really, really good. I'm telling you, you'll enjoy it. Thanks for watching, everyone, and game on.
Tiny Arcade fan page. Remember, don't admire people too much. They'll disappoint you.
Sit, Blue Blue, sit. Good dog.